Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're setting out on, well, more than just a road trip, really. We're looking at the East Coast Heritage Trail, that incredible route stretching from Boston clear down to Miami.
It's quite a span.
It is. And we're not just talking roads here. Our deep dive today is about digging into the history, the culture embedded all along that trail.
Absolutely. It's like a timeline of America laid out geographically.
Yeah. And it covers so much ground, promising, well, a really varied experience. Our goal here is to pull out the most interesting, most important bits for our listeners.
Right, because you go from the nation's very beginnings in a place like Boston all the way to the sort of vibrant modern pulse of Miami.
Exactly. It's centuries of change.
And it's fascinating how these places connect, even though they seem so different on the surface. It's about finding those threads.
Okay, so let's start where it kind of begins for many people, Boston, Massachusetts.
The cradle of liberty.
Right. You can't talk about early American history without Boston. And the heart of that, for visitors, is often the Freedom Trail.
Mm-hmm. That 2.5-mile red line painted on the sidewalk.
Yeah. And it connects 16 really pivotal historical sites. It's not just a walk. It's like walking through history.
It really is. You're basically tracing the start of the American Revolution right there on foot.
Yeah, the actual spots where huge decisions were made, where things happened that, shaped everything that came after.
You think about the figures involved.
Like Samuel Adams, Paul Revere,
Yeah.
names everyone knows.
And you're walking the same streets, seeing the buildings where they met, where they planned things.
Powerful stuff. And then you've got the Massachusetts State House, that big golden dome.
It's hard to miss.
Yeah, it's more than just impressive architecture. It feels like a symbol of, well, democracy's roots in America.
It definitely sets the stage. Boston gives you that foundational story, the fight for independence, those core ideas of liberty.
And as we move south,
Well, you start to see how those initial ideals played out, how they were interpreted, sometimes very differently in other places.
okay, so next stop, heading south, Newport, Rhode Island.
Mm.
And this feels like a completely different world.
It really is a shift. We leave the Revolutionary era behind and bam, you're in the Gilded Age.
All that opulence, those massive mansions.
Exactly. It tells a different American story, one about huge industrial growth, immense wealth, and families like the Astors, the Vanderbilts.
These weren't just houses, they were statements, right?
Oh, absolutely. Statements of power, status, architectural behemoths, really reflecting that specific late 19th century boom.
And you can still see it today. The Cliff Walk, for instance.
Yeah, that's incredible. You get these amazing ocean views on one side and then these jaw-dropping estates on the other.
It gives you a real sense of how those families lived, the sheer scale of it all.
And it makes you think, doesn't it? How does this incredible display of wealth sit alongside those revolutionary ideals from Boston?
That's a great point. It highlights the complexities, the different layers, maybe even the contradictions in American history.
For sure, the disparities were certainly there.
Okay, continuing south, we hit Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Philly, the city of brotherly love.
And just dripping with history. Maybe even more central to the founding documents than Boston in some ways.
Arguably, yes. I mean, you have the Liberty Bell there.
Iconic.
And Independence Hall, that's huge.
Huge. It's where the Declaration of Independence was signed.
Right, declaring separation from Britain.
And later, where the U.S. Constitution was hammered out. The framework for the whole government.
Standing in that room, it's pretty overwhelming when you think about the decisions made there.
You can almost feel the ghosts, maybe. Benjamin Franklin certainly feels present.
Huh, maybe. He was such a key figure, wasn't he? A real Renaissance man for his time.
Absolutely. Inventor, statesman, writer.
And Philly really captures that intense intellectual and political energy of the late 1700s. It was the hub.
The place where ideas were debated, where a new nation was being, well, forged. Often through difficult arguments, I imagine.
No doubt. It wasn't easy.
Okay, further south again, to Washington, D.C., the capital.
And the sense of scale changes again, that grandeur.
Especially in the National Mall. It's just that wide open space.
It's incredibly symbolic, isn't it? You've got the Lincoln Memorial at one end, the Washington Monument soaring up, the Capitol building.
And all the Smithsonian museums flanking it.
Exactly. It represents the nation's ideals, its struggles, its culture. It's a place for learning, but also for reflection.
Definitely reflection. You could spend weeks just exploring the museums and monuments.
Easily.
And if you go in spring, the cherry blossoms.
Oh, magical. It adds this whole other layer of beauty.
So D.C. represents, what, the consolidation of the nation, its ongoing story.
I think so, yeah. It's the center stage for American governance, culture, its place in the world. It's where the story continues to unfold.
All right, let's keep heading south. Charleston, South Carolina.
Ah, Charleston. Now there's a distinct change in atmosphere again.
Southern charm, right.
Yeah.
And that incredibly preserved architecture.
Very well preserved. You wander those cobblestone streets, maybe hear a horse-drawn carriage.
It does feel like stepping back a bit.
It really does. It speaks to a very specific regional history, shaped by its own social and economic past.
And the food.
Yeah.
We have to mention the food.
Oh, definitely. Charleston's culinary scene is fantastic.
Shrimp and grits. Everyone talks about the shrimp and grits.
It's a must-try. And it reminds you, history isn't just dates and documents. It's also about, well, how people lived, what they ate, their traditions.
That's true. It feels very lived in Charleston.
Yeah.
It holds on to its past, but feels vibrant now.
Exactly. It's got that balance, a testament to the appeal of that Southern culture, I think.
Okay, final leg of our journey takes us all the way down to Miami, Florida.
And talk about contrasts.
Yeah, this feels very different from, say, Boston or Philly. A definite shift in culture, in energy.
Miami marks the end point, and it shows us a more recent chapter, a more diverse and globalized America in some ways.
You see it in the architecture, like the Art Deco stuff in South Beach.
Instantly recognizable. That's a whole different aesthetic, a different era of development.
And the Cuban influence, especially in Little Havana.
Huge. It's such a clear example of how immigration continuously shapes and enriches the country.
It gives the city such a lively, energetic vibe. A great place to finish this historical journey.
Yeah, that contrast between the deep historical roots up north and the sort of modern dynamic energy of Miami really highlights how American identity is always evolving.
So looking back over the whole trail, it's clear that it's not just about places, but people. Influential figures whose stories are woven into these cities.
Absolutely. It's impossible to separate the locations from the people. Think of Paul Revere's Midnight Ride.
A single event, but so symbolic of that revolutionary urgency.
Right. Or Benjamin Franklin, we mentioned him. His contributions were just immense across so many fields.
Science, politics.
Diplomacy, you name it. And George Washington, of course. His leadership was just fundamental to establishing the nation.
And each city we've touched on gives you a different perspective on these figures, doesn't it?
It does. You see different aspects of their lives, their impact, depending on where you are along the trail.
It adds layers to understanding not just them, but the whole sweep of American history.
And seeing their stories together, you also see the complexities, maybe even the contradictions. It wasn't one simple narrative. It was messy, full of different motivations and beliefs.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Let's touch on some of those maybe quirkier, lesser-known facts you find along the way.
Ah, the fun bits. These often make history stick, don't they? Make it more human.
Totally. Like, back in Boston, on the Freedom Trail itself, is the site of the Boston molasses disaster.
Oh, that's a wild story.
Isn't it? A giant tank of molasses burst, apparently sent a wave flooding through the streets at something like 35 miles per hour.
Imagine. Sticky doesn't even begin to cover it. It's such a bizarre, unexpected event.
It reminds you that history wasn't all serious declarations. Everyday life, even disasters, happen too.
Exactly. Then down in Newport with those mansions,
Yeah.
the Vanderbilts, when they stayed at the Breakers, supposedly brought a staff of 40 servants with them.
40. Just for a vacation home.
Apparently so. It just gives you a sense of the incredible scale of wealth and, well, the social structure of the Gilded Age.
That is mind-boggling. The contrast again.
Right. And one more from Philly.
Hmm?
A bit of local lore.
Go on.
There are rumors, ghost stories, that Benjamin Franklin's ghost still hangs around Independence Hall.
Huh. Maybe keeping an eye on things.
Who knows? But stories like that, true or not, keep the past alive, make it feel more tangible, maybe.
Yeah, they definitely spark the imagination. So, wrapping this up, thinking about this whole East Coast Heritage Trail deep dive,
Yeah.
what are the main takeaways?
Well, I think the biggest thing is seeing America's evolution firsthand. You literally travel through time, in a way.
From the revolutionary beginnings.
Right? Through massive economic changes like the Gilded Age, through periods of social upheaval, increasing diversity. Each stop adds a crucial piece to that bigger American story.
It really feels like a reflection of the country's resilience, but also its incredible diversity. Those two things seem central.
Absolutely. You see how the past shapes the present everywhere along that route.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening.
Yeah.
How do all these different historical threads, The revolution, the opulence, the Southern culture, the modern energy in Miami. How do they all weave together to create the America we know today?
That's the big question, isn't it? It's complex, constantly changing. This trail gives you a fantastic way to start exploring those layers.
And maybe something we talked about, a specific place, a person, even that molasses flood, sparked some interest.
Hopefully. There's always more to discover. That's the beauty of history. And a journey like this, it doesn't really end.